Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Council's call for amendments to National Solid Waste Management Act. Transformation of municipal waste management coming soon. And later in sports, former Reggae Boys technical director to be Chapelton Maroons head coach. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. The St. James Council is proposing tough measures to prevent fires at the island's dump sites. Councillor for the Montego Bay Northeastern Division, Senator Charles Sinclair, has even gone a step further, calling for the legislative changes. O'Shane Masters has the details.
Millions of dollars have been spent over the last few years to put out fires at the nation's dump sites, especially at Riverton in St. Andrew and the retirement dump in St. James. Last year, local government minister Desmond McKenzie noted that the government is still paying out thousands of dollars due to suits which were brought against the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, by citizens. But there's a call this afternoon for the government to take steps in addressing the frequent fires. Councillor for the Montego Bay Northeastern Division, Senator Charles Sinclair, wants amendments to the National Solid Waste Management Act.
To make any unauthorized person entering up on the disposal site to be sanctioned with some serious penalties, whether it is in the form of monetary fines that are significant or imprisonment.
He says for too long, unscrupulous persons have been allowed to get away with causing public mischief and jeopardizing the health of Jamaicans. He says the time has come for that to end.
This is a public health hazard that spreads miles out of St. James and into the parish of Hanover. It takes up the resources of the National Solid Waste. It takes up the resources of the fire brigade.
As for garbage pickers, Mr. Sinclair says they should be licensed.
So if they are genuine, hard-working, industrious Jamaicans who believe that they can make a living from the use of the disposal site, let them be authorized. They are vetted, assessed by NSWMA.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
In the meantime, Councilor Sinclair is calling for laws to penalize stakeholders if they fail to rectify issues brought to them in a timely manner. He pointed to low-hanging cables from Jamaica Public Service poles to include those belonging to third parties, such as telecommunications and cable providers.
We have sought to engage them. They keep promising, but they fail to deliver. And so you have the problem that you are now having, where your trucks are getting damaged. The sensor is getting damaged because of low-hanging cables. And it cannot be a situation that's difficult. But then just imagine this. One of your trucks pull down, get caught on the cable, but pull down 3 GPS poles. The danger and the outage and the inconvenience that you're going to have.
Councilor Sinclair says the risk by those stakeholders have been allowed to go unabated for too long, hence this call.
We spoke about legislation. We must have legislation that penalize these places, these stakeholders, these service providers when they don't act appropriately. Yes. We need to get legislation in that regard.
The government is promising a transformation of municipal waste management in the country. Prime Minister Andrew Holness provided details on the strategy at a fundraising dinner in East Central St. James on the weekend. Despite the increase in the fleet of garbage trucks, waste piling up in sections of the country continues to be a major public health issue. Speaking in St. James on the weekend, Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave his most recent experience.
I was so impressed with the area, pristine, some woodlands are there. And as I was running, I couldn't help but notice that right on the side of the road was a fast food box and a plastic cup. just thrown down in all this pristine miles of grass and woodland. Someone had no appreciation for it, no care for it, and just threw it down.
So, in addition to increasing the fines for littering, Mr. Holness says the groundwork is now being done for the development of a strategy that will transform municipal waste management in the country.
Effectively, we will create a market for waste. So we will be creating a circular economy in waste, because the waste will become feedstock for electricity generation. So very soon, waste will have value.
And Mr. Holness says as a result, some waste dumps or cities will be closed.
We will close the retirement dump and the Riverton City dump. And we will, through a public-private partnership, construct a sanitary landfill in the center of the island. We have identified the lands already, and the studies have been done, and we intend to go to market very soon to find a partner who will construct and operate.
He says the government will give a long-term concession for the collection of waste and the building of transfer stations.
By the end of this month, Cabinet will get the business case for all these operations for us to approve. And once the business case is approved, then we go to the RFP process, that is a request for proposal. In other words, we go to market. We have done a sounding already of investors, and that has been very successful. This is an area that is maturing, and there are many investors who have turnkey operations who want to come and do the entire thing. It also means that the NSWMA will change its mode of operation from being a collector and manager of landfills and collector of waste. The NSWMA will now become the enforcement arm of government, and so their operations will change.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is defending the government's new social housing program, which was implemented in 2018. The program targets the relocation of vulnerable communities, giving priority to persons in imminent danger and upgrading tenement yards. Speaking at a recent handing over ceremony for a house in St. Mary, Mr. Holness says while the process may be slow, the program is working. Therefore, he's urging citizens to trust the process.
If people feel that government isn't putting a long-term strategy in place, then people will feel that they shouldn't wait, that they shouldn't have patience, that they shouldn't believe in the program. But what we have managed to demonstrate to the Jamaican people is that we are making the consistent budgetary allocations, and we are building the houses, and we are delivering them.
The two-bedroom unit was built to the tune of $9 million.
It's a little bit more than what we do under the social housing program. We have managed to bring down our costs significantly. But I can see why this unit is $9 million, because of where it is and how you would have to build. I notice you have a cellar under the unit, so you have raised it. And so all of those things contribute to the cost. So you would have had to use more steel in the decking of the floor and so forth. So it is quite justified, the expenditure.
The new social housing program operates under the Housing Opportunity Production and Employment Program HOPE through the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. The initiative aims to provide the housing condition of the most needy citizens across the country. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is again imploring Jamaicans to pursue better lifestyle practices. The Minister of Health has been trying to reduce the number of non-communicable diseases cases, but that continues to be a challenge. More in this report.
Non-communicable diseases, NCDs, continue to be a major public health burden in Jamaica. NCDs are also the leading cause of death in the country. In 2013, Cabinet approved a comprehensive multi-sectoral national strategic and action plan for the prevention and control of NCDs. The goal is to reduce the health risks and, by extension, deaths caused by NCDs by 25% come 2025. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says Jamaicans need to be more vigilant in the prevention of NCDs.
We can't build enough hospitals, buy enough ambulances, hire enough nurses to deal with people who are intent on settling their disputes by using a machete, a pickaxe, a fork, a piece of stick, a knife, or worse, a gun. And it happens every single day.
He added that until Jamaicans take personal responsibility for their behavior, which leads to violence and lifestyle diseases, the Health Ministry will not be able to meet the demands placed on the country's health institutions. He says over 173,000 visits were made to the South Regional Health Authority and emergency departments last year, including over 2,500 victims of motor vehicle crashes and over 4,500 trauma cases. The data, he says, underscores his concerns.
Think of the population in southern region. By the way, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, 3 parishes. And you look at these statistics, you can only conclude a couple of things, because on a per capita basis, if you average that and look at other jurisdictions, other populations, you're going to conclude, one, that we're a country at war with ourselves. 2, we're really not pursuing lifestyle practices that gives us sufficient longevity and quality of life.
Of the total number of cases, many of them, he noted, are as a result of persons not taking responsibility for their health. But Dr. Tufton says upcoming legislation and programs will aid in addressing some of these issues. He was speaking at a handing over ceremony for ambulances at the South Regional Health Authority in Manchester recently. Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
A multi-million-dollar early childhood innovation center will be established in Montego Bay, St. James. Member of Parliament for St. James East Central, Edmund Bartlett, says the center will target young children. More in this report. The state-of-the-art Early Childhood Innovation Center will be designed to facilitate children between ages 2 to 5. This will be done at a cost of some $1.5 million. Member of Parliament for St. James East Central, Edmund Bartlett, says the multi-million-dollar project will greatly benefit children, especially as many are lacking in certain critical areas of their development.
The neuroscientist tells us that the brain is wired to learn, and at that stage you have trillions and trillions and trillions of protons. By the time you get to age 15, 16, you have lost half of that. And when you get to my age, you probably have very little left, if any. But between 2 and 5, you have all of those protons still active, and you're wired to learn. And we want our children to begin there.
Mr. Bartlett was speaking at the fundraising event for the project in St. James on the weekend. He says he's offering 8 academic scholarships at a value of $20,000 from this fundraising event towards early childhood education. He says 3 of the scholarships will be given to persons to complete their bachelor's degree and 5 certifications in early childhood education and family life.
Now, those 5 scholarships would begin in August of this year. In fact, all 8 will begin in August of this year. But the intention of the 5 is to enable them to complete their certification in time for the opening of this innovation center. And then, of course, within the next 2 years after, the first cadre of graduates would come on stream as teachers and as tutors and guidance counselors within the frame of that institution.
Mr. Bartlett says it is his intention to ask Education Minister Favour Williams to embrace the school so it can be added to the Ministry of Education's list. He explains that it is because he wants to see a continuation of the initiative.
And I've established a special team And that team we will announce very shortly. We'll be establishing a special company that will be responsible for managing the institution. It will be taken out of the formal essential education program and be made into an entity unto itself, funded independently, supported independently, and is able to survive my own tenure as long as that might be in Essential St. J's.
It's now time for the Business Minute. Here's Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, the finance and insurance services industry grew by 1% for the third quarter ended September 2022. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica says this was largely due to an increase in the monetary intermediation sub-industry. That refers to activities carried out by financial institutions that receive deposits, make loans, and provide various financial account services. Statin says the growth in monetary intermediation was influenced by improved performance in commercial banks and credit unions. In business overseas, the World Economic Forum kicks off today in Davos, Switzerland, and is expected to draw a record 2,700 attendees. On Monday, the Davos organizer said 2/3 of private and public sector chief economists surveyed by the World Economic Forum expect a global recession in 2023. Some 18% considered a world recession extremely likely, more than twice as many as in the previous survey conducted in September 2022. Only 1/3 of respondents to the survey viewed it as unlikely this year. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And now for the top regional and international stories.
In regional news, the United States Coast Guard says crews patrolling the Florida Straits and Mona Passes in the Caribbean Sea prevented hundreds of illegal Caribbean migrants from reaching the United States by sea from January 6 to 13. This comes just months after the U.S. White House and Department of Homeland Security announced new legal pathways for those wishing to visit the United States. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, Cubans and Haitians who enter by sea will be placed in removal proceedings and will be ineligible for the parole process. On the international scene, Italy's most wanted mafia, Messina Denaro, has been arrested after 30 years on the run. He was arrested in the city of Palermo while he was undergoing treatment at a health facility. Denaro was sentenced to life in prison for his role in the deaths of 2 prosecutors in 1992 and is considered responsible for dozens of mafia-related murder. He was also considered by Europol as one of the most wanted men in Europe. Government officials across the world are celebrating his arrest as a victory for Italy. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Jordan Fort.